Hey everyone, Realme has been killing it in terms of value from the very inception of the brand, and as time has gone on, they've entered more and more premium territory. Now, unsurprisingly, their latest flagship is one of the cheapest Snapdragon 865 phones that you can get. But what exactly does that mean that you're going to be getting? I'm Andrew for GSM Arena, and this is our Realme X50 Pro 5G review. The Realme X50 Pro has a simple but pleasing design. There's Gorilla Glass 5 front and back, and a seamless design from back glass to aluminum frame. Ours is in rusty red and has a matte finish on the back glass, which makes the entire phone nicer to hold. It feels almost like metal when it's cold, and more importantly, it makes the grip better, so the X50 feels secure in the hand. Aside from that, on the front you'll find thin bezels all around, a pill-shaped hole punch, and the fastest fingerprint reader available at the moment. It's actually the same one as on the OnePlus 7T and the Realme X2 Pro. The 6.4-inch screen itself is a very nice AMOLED with a 90Hz refresh rate that supports HDR10+. You can change it, of course, and choose between 60Hz, 90Hz, or Auto Select, which allows the phone to optimize it for battery life. That said, you should know that few games currently support 90 FPS, and even fewer recognize the Realme screen as one. You're guaranteed the butter-smooth action with day-to-day tasks, but not so much with gaming, at least for now. The display has good brightness for an OLED screen with 635 nits in auto mode and 525 in manual, but it wasn't class-leading. As far as colors go, accuracy is good, but whites lean slightly towards blue. You can change this a bit with the temperature slider, just scooch it towards warm. The X50 Pro has a stereo speaker setup. There's a downward firing speaker on the bottom and a razor-thin earpiece that doubles as a second channel on the top bezel. It scored a very good rating in terms of loudness, and it was even better in terms of quality with an excellent rating. Both bass and treble are loud and clear and are even better than on the fine X2 Pro, though the bass wasn't quite on the level with the best performers out there. The Realme has a 4,200 mAh battery, and it scored 90 hours in our endurance tests. This was a very good score, but it was actually a little lower than we expected considering the battery size. This is Realme's first phone to support the 65-watt Super Dart charge. It gets the phone's battery from flat up to 100% in 38. It has no wireless charging, but considering this super impressive fast charging, I doubt most people will mind. The Realme X50 Pro 5G is one of the first phones with a Snapdragon 865 chipset. It features Qualcomm's X55 modem, which adds full 5G connectivity. The phone also has a 5-dimensional cooling system. Performance was flagship level, and it matched other phones with this chipset. We also didn't notice any excess heat under load. As far as software goes, the X50 sports Android 10 with Realme UI on top. It's a new take on ColorOS, and it definitely delivered. The launcher looks more like vanilla Android, and there's a clutter-free app drawer available. There are some powerful tools and options and settings, but you can just leave the phone as is and enjoy a hassle-free Android experience. There are also quite a few visual customization options available, like different icon packs and the always-on screen. For example, you can leave the always-on display turned on, or you can turn on screen light effects for notifications. There's also a smart sidebar, which can customize action and app shortcuts, much like what you'd find on a Samsung Galaxy device. Now, if you take a look at the back of the phone, you'll see a pretty standard quad camera setup. It has a 64-megapixel primary shooter with a quad Bayer filter and an f1.8 aperture. There's also a 12-megapixel telephoto with 2x zoom, an 8-megapixel ultrawide, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor for portraits. Allegedly, it should also help the main camera with contrast. The phone saves 16-megapixel photos by default, and they're great. There's plenty of detail, accurate colors, excellent contrast, and a wide dynamic range. We noticed some visible noise in areas of uniform color, but it didn't detract from the overall image. Foliage and other intricate things weren't the best we've seen, and they got smeared by the algorithm. Still, daylight shots were close in quality to the current top dogs. If you turn on AI color, you'll get pictures with HDR and much livelier colors. They might be too saturated for some, so whether you use it depends on your taste. While shooting at max resolution doesn't usually result in much of a difference, if you switch to the 64-megapixel mode here, you'll get some extra detail, mostly in foliage. However, there's more noise, shots are slower to take, and they eat up quite a bit of storage space, so we'd still stick with the default mode. The ultra-wide camera did a very good job with noise-free images that had nice levels of detail. Colors were realistic, though washed out, and the automatic distortion correction was nicely applied. The camera supports autofocus and can take macro photos too. Detail wasn't ideal, but it works okay for the occasional shot. The telephoto camera produced images with excellent colors, contrast, and dynamic range. Images were noisy, but had flagship level detail. Foliage was quite good here, and sharpness was balanced. Portraits had competent subject detection and convincing background blur. Stray hairs didn't prove much of a challenge, and shots are exemplary. In low light, the main camera had very good performance, though we've seen better performance from Xiaomi and Galaxy phones. They had outstanding color saturation and contrast, and very good dynamic range. If you leave the AI color mode on, it will trigger Nightscape. There is a visible boost in shadows and improved highlights. The color saturation gets better, and there's no loss in details while having less noise, which is awesome in our book. If you put the Realme X50 Pro on a tripod at night, you'll get some really great photos. They're very nicely balanced and have excellent color retention. We saw stars in the skies, and at the same time, there were no blown highlights. Images from the ultrawide at night were soft with scarce detail. While we've seen worse, you should just turn on Nightscape. With Nightscape, images are brighter, they have wider dynamic range, there's more detail, colors are richer, and contrast is better. Basically, use Nightscape if you use the ultrawide snapper at night. If you want to zoom in 2 times when the light is low, you should know that the dedicated telephoto doesn't always get triggered. Even if it does, images are much better with Nightscape. The Realme can shoot 4K videos at 30 FPS. Detail is alright, colors are nicely saturated, and the contrast is nice. The dynamic range could be wider though. In Full HD there's not a lot of detail and we saw some over-sharpening, but at least colors and dynamic range were a match with 4K footage. You'll find that every 1080p clip is stabilized no matter what camera it comes from. Full HD videos from the telephoto were flagship grade, the detail is superb, the contrast and dynamic range were excellent. On the other hand, Full HD videos from the ultrawide were less inspiring, with average quality across the board. The cameras you'll find in the dual hole punch on the front of the phone were nicely chosen. It's a combination of a 32-megapixel main sensor and an 8-megapixel ultrawide snapper, which is better than having a depth sensor taking up space on the front of your phone. Selfies were very good. Detail was average, but everything else was excellent. Portraits had plenty of details, with good background separation, convincing blur, and lively colors. The ultra-wide selfies also had plenty of detail and superb contrast in colors. With a price of around €600, this fully fledged flagship, I dare you to say that 3 times fast, is one of the best deals that you can get out there at the moment. The Redmi K30 Pro might put up a fight once it's released globally, but other than that, it's actually quite difficult to think of competition. So the Realme X50 Pro has a beautiful 90Hz AMOLED display, 5G connectivity, a flagship chipset, blazing fast charging, and a capable camera setup. So do we recommend it? Definitely. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and more importantly, stay home and stay safe. See you guys next time.